Uh, so I strongly believe that here the in this uh, novel, with the vendor of sweets, the conflict between tradition and modernity is symbolized through the relationship between father and son, namely Jahan and Mali. Uh, Thank you for hearing.
I'm going to speak about the Now I'm going to speak about the topic of the poem Father and Son, written by Cat Stevens. This poem is uh, this poem is about a boy and a father, and the boy wants to join in Russian Revolution, and the father is trying to stop that boy from joining the Russian Revolution. But at the last, for the father it ends up in failure because the son joins in the Russian Revolution. And let's see about this in the poem. In the first two lines, the father is speaking to the father seems to speak to the son after a long argument, and here he addresses that his son in the form of giving. He gives advices from his life experiences and his real the real situations he met in throughout his young life, and he says that it is not the correct time or the age to make the quick changes or quick decisions, because father thinks that the son is immature, and these decisions always be incorrect in this age, and he asked the son to just relax without being restless and serious, and he considers the son, and he emphasizes again and again that he is still young and he is still immature, and so the fault is nothing else but still the young age. Here we should not follow the literal meaning of the word fault as weakness. The father conveys the idea that his son's problems is that he is too young to understand the world. And in other words, the father thinks that he has to be much more experienced to survive in this world alone. But this but in this time, the father wants to keep the son in his hands, and he persuades him to have a normal and life, and he strongly rejects that son is being restless and quick about the decisions he make, and he advises his son to find a girl and settle down, and according to father's experience, it is only a romantic world without being too much aggressive and radical in decision making. The father is prepared to give his consent for his son to even marry the girl, but it is not good to be in a conservative and romantic path of life, because it just don't doesn't let us to think more creatively and positively, and it just the father wants the son to think conservatively, uh, and he just wants the son to just stay in home and relax and just marry. And moreover, the father recollects his own youth and speaks to his son with his experience, and he knows that it is not easy to be calm when we find something wrong happening in the society. According to the background story of the in this poem, the son wants to, as I already said, the son wants to join the Russian Revolution, and the father emphasizes the love for his son, and he uses that love to uh, put him in a conservative lifestyle. And uh, he asks him to take a time and decide what to be done without being impulsive and radical. And he also draws the son's uh, attention to the facilities and resources available at home for a better future. For you still be here tomorrow, but your dreams may not. Here, this is the last line of the second paragraph. Here, the father seems to be optimistic about the son, and he thinks that the son lives in accordance with the rules, norms, and uh, if the father thinks that if the son lives in the accordance with the rules, norms, and traditional values, his dreams change. His dreams and his radical decisions change, and will those dreamy things will naturally leave from him. But the son is not ready to understand, not ready to listen to the father's uh, advices, and he just want to join in the Russian Revolution. Uh, or otherwise, every wrong decision taken at young age could threaten future, and there will be no turning back. And thus, he strongly and affectionately requests his son uh, to and he is not allowing his son uh, to make his dreams come true. Moreover, in the next stanza, all the father is speaking to his son. The son is, but here specifically, the son is not speaking to the father. He is he's most probably speaking to himself or another person who is listening to him. As in this poem, people in the audience are also listeners, and we too, as readers, can understand what he expresses and feels uh, in the lines. And why doesn't he directly answer to his father? We it is not obvious in the poem, but the first line suggests that he has tried to respond to his father several times, because he is just repeating the several tenses again and again. And whenever he tries to explain his opinions, the father turns away without being attentive. And after some time, he just turns back to son, and he starts repeating his own utterances again. And the father, uh, likely the father repeats the same advices, and he's not ready to listen to him. And instead, he asks the son, and he persuades the son to listen to him. Why doesn't the father listen to him? As he stated previously, he thinks that he is still young to understand. As I said, he is still young to understand the world and life, and he is not ready to withstand in the problems, in the many problems in the changing society. And meanwhile, the father does not understand the son's desire to break away and shape a new life. And the father is not letting the son to explore the world. And by this, the son is getting frustrated uh, about his life, and he thinks that the attempt to explain his mission to the father is in vain. And so the son emphasizes his need to go away to fulfill his dreams and yearnings. And moreover, um, in the next stanza, in those lines, the father repeats as before. The father repeats the same advices to his son, with a few changes of the words, and he further emphasizes that this age is not suitable for leaving home and starting a new life. Here, the listeners and readers uh, the listeners and readers uh, should be very bored about these utterances, and uh, even the listeners are bored about the utterances. So think about the son's state. He must be so frustrated about these sayings of the father, and he asks the father asks the son to sit down and listen uh, to what he says repeatedly, and the sons and his again and again emphasizes that son's fault is uh, immaturity, and uh, and he also emphasizes that he has to uh, go through many experiences to shape him into a man he wants, and and the father wants his son to follow him, and the father seems to have limited dreams and desires throughout his life, but it is not applicable for him uh, for the son to be like his father, because of the generational gap. The father might had less problems, and he might have been less imaginative than the son, but the son is not like that. Son society has uh, much more things to explore and much more problems to solve, and his creativity uh, might be higher. Creativity will be higher than the father's creativity. Perhaps the young man may have learned more than his father, and it is not fair to compare the father's young age with his young age, as I said. And sometimes the child becomes the father of the man, and without a father of the man, and it is evident that the father tries to convince his son by his stereotypical pattern or a formula. It is falling with love with a girl, showing commitment to love and getting married. As I already said, he repeats them in the same again and again in every paragraph. And the father advises his son to work for the fulfillment of these type of basic needs of human life. And in that sense, the father is also married in his young age, had children, and reached his old age. Uh, and it is ironic that the father asks the son to look at him, uh, and it is ironic uh, that the father asks the son to look at him as a happy man despite his old age. Thus, the father asks his son to follow the contentment and the fulfillment through the traditional and simple lifestyle. And we have a doubt that uh, whether the modern young people can be confined to such a conservative framework, and they usually have a strong desire for a change, and it may be personal or political or social or any other, because uh, and there is a strong contradiction between the father's wishes and the son's wishes for a change. And moreover, in the next stanza, the son reveals that uh, he has suffered all the time, keeping all the things he knew inside. And what are those all things? All things may be referred to the unexpressed internal desires, and uh, which are restricted by the father's stereotypical advices. And he is in a tension due to all those unexpressed internal desires, and he is forced to play the external prescribed external roles as a husband of a girl, and it is hard to make all these desires, uh, but but his father's desire and his desires are comparatively very different, and his father emphasizes his son to be to take the role of a husband of a girl and to like relax in the home like him, but the son's desires are not like that. He's just want to he might have wanted to serve his country by joining in the revolution, or in that time he just wanted to gain to work as a part to in gaining independence for his country. And in the line uh, and the line, if they were right, I'd agree, but it's them, not me. It is and here the pronoun they may represent the adults, like the son, the teenagers like the son who had dreams for a change. And the poet has employed the conditional clause here, clause type 2 in this part of the line. If they were right, I'd agree. And with that, at the end of uh, and these type of sentences, as the sentences that I mentioned, that these type of sentences are used for the unlikely, impossible, hypothetical conditions. The conditional clause type 2 are used for impossible and hypothetical conditions, and therefore we can assume that the son does not have any positive attitude towards the fathers and other section, and also he agree with the father that uh, they had failed in realizing their dreams, and at the same time he remained the father. It is them, reminds the father, it is them, not me. It conveys that idea the father shouldn't judge him by looking at such failures whom he knows. He must look at the success and the potential he has, and he wants to emphasize that he has the will and the power to achieve the desired aims and objectives, even though the son has the will and the power to gain his desires and his dreams, but the father doesn't seems to have a little bit of hope again for his son. And um, at the end of this poem, the son stresses vehemently that he wants to go, and he tries his best to uh, refuse the father's prescribed roles, admirations, and persuadings. By keeping all these in his mind, he starts his mission to make his vision true. And moreover, here in this poem, Cat Stevens, uh, written by Cat Stevens, mainly conveys the theme of generational gap. What does this generation gap mean? It refers to, when we see it, it refers to the way of thinking and perception of the people of two different generation, which result in behavioral differences and mindset differences, and sometimes it may trigger a conflict among them. And in other uh, words, it is the uh, difference in the thinking of the people of the old and younger generation, which is generally connoted with the lack of understanding, and the most common generation gap uh, is seen in the family between parents and the children. And it is not only because of the gap in age, but also because of the way parents react to the particular situation. Children are being very young and immature, and the adults always think that children are very young and immature to the understand the hard thinking and the hard parts of life, but they shouldn't always think like that, because children also have in this time children's in this generation children are pretty much well matured than our adults being child in their time, and they should let the children to try their desires and dreams. And if they fail in that, uh, if even if they fail in that, uh, uh, the adults might give a boost to continue the other one, but they must not refuse the children from trying their dreams, because trying the dreams and desires the will give the information and the experience they want to withstand in this uh, hard path of the society. Thank you for hearing me.